So obviously it goes without saying that we're tremendously honored to be here at CAHPERD, surrounded by so many amazing educators eager to just develop and hone their craft. I want to share with you how it is that we came to be here. I was out at Shape Minneapolis last year. Who was at Shape Minneapolis? Anybody? Right? So I'm sitting down and I get a tap on my shoulder and I look up and there's Brent Powell leaning over me saying, "I'd like to have a word with you." And I'm like, "Oh shit." And behind him there's this like shorter squat fellow saying he'd like to have a word with you. Anyway, the conversation transpires and they say, "Would you like to come out to California and present at the conference?" Now normally when we get an offer to present, we run it by each other, we speak to our family and we ask if it's okay for us to travel. But you could see inside our heads we're thinking, California in February? Not only is California significantly warmer than it is back home in Illinois, but it's home to so many great educators whom we interact with regularly on social media and who we have the fortune to meet at conferences around the country. There's so many great California teachers representing you. So let's see who else is here today. There's a great article that I read by a guy called Terry Hike who talked about the stages of a teaching career. So at this time, can you stand please if you're a future professional? If you're a future professional, please stand. Stay standing. There's a great sense of pride amongst this group of individuals right now. You've made the bold move to become a teacher. Perhaps you've had to justify that move to friends and family. And for you, this is a period of immense professional and personal growth. We are stronger as a profession for these young, dynamic educators here who are our future. Give a round of applause.
Please stand if you've been teaching from 1 to 5 years. This period of time is crucial in the development of teachers. You find yourself putting theory into practice and combining all that you've learned in college with all that you're learning in the real world. This period of time is rather stressful for these teachers, and for some, it's about survival. We lose good teachers during this time, and by you being here shows you are motivated to improve your teaching skills and become a better teacher. Our profession is stronger for having motivated individuals such as yourself striving to become the best you can possibly be. Let's give them another round of applause.
All right, please stand if you've been teaching for 6 to 10 years. It's all about experimentation. Over the course of your career, you've experimented with pedagogy, different teaching ideas, and that experimentation has become more refined and more successful. And perhaps for you, teaching is now all about fun. You may have moved into positions of leadership, you've taken on additional responsibility. And our profession is stronger for all that you have done and for your desire to continue honing your craft and being here today. Thank you.
Please stand if you've been teaching from 11 to 20 years. Wow! With so many years under your belt, you've seen great change. You've seen all that is good and bad about our profession. You're more aware of the politics that impact our profession. And perhaps at times you become disillusioned by what you've seen or been asked to do. We are stronger for people such as yourselves. Okay, when you look at this, all right, you guys are the ones in a position, despite all the things that you know, you're in a position to push back and ask questions. You're determined to make a difference and leave a legacy. Our profession is stronger for lifelong learners such as yourself. Let's give them another round of applause.
And finally, please stand if you've been teaching for 20 or more years. Such a positive impact on so many students. Perhaps now you're even teaching the children of former students. Doesn't that make you feel old? Or you're teaching alongside former students as well. You now know that teaching isn't about this thing or that thing, but it's about everything. You're all about mastery. Some people might say, you don't even need to be here, and yet here you are. We are stronger for all that you have done through the course of your career and for your desire to continue working towards becoming a master teacher. And for that, we thank you. Okay, now is a great time for us to be a teacher in our profession because of the physical and health literacy argument and that conversation that's going on social media. If you'd have asked me when I first started teaching in 1994, what did I want kids to get out of my PE lessons, I'd have said something like, I want them to be really good at playing a number of different sports. And I worked alongside teachers who were very happy to just roll out the ball. Now, if I was to ask you, what do you want kids to take away from their time in your PE class, you'd say things like, and help me out here, what would you say? Critical thinking, lifelong learners, social and emotional health. Okay, and it's this piece here, I appreciate you can't necessarily see this. It's a great document that Shape America put out, and it reminds us that a quality health and PE program is all about developing the skills, the physical skills, the health skills that our kids need in order to become successful throughout their lives. Dr. Dean Creelars, he gave a great presentation, by the way. He stood up here, this time last year, and he talked about how physical literacy comes from competence, which leads to confidence, which leads to motivation. And he told us that movement skills were the building blocks of movement creativity. And those quality health and PE programs right now are concentrating on developing skills and making our kids skilled performers. Our students want to value movement, value health, and really value going out of their way to find ways in which they can improve themselves in a range of dynamic settings. In the health classroom, we're preparing our students for what is yet to come. The drug of choice is always going to change, but the skill of refusal, the skills of goal setting, advocating for my health and the health of others, that's always going to be the same. It's easy to attack a program where all we do is roll out the ball and we teach content, but it's not so easy to attack a program when we are striving to develop these kids full of the skills that they need in order to be successful as they grow older. Plus, I'd argue if we get our students to buy into this physical and health literacy message, we create a small army of allies and advocates who are more empowered to speak up and speak out when they or their peers are given anything other than a quality health or PE experience. They'll feel more empowered to speak up when they see PE time being cut, or waivers being granted for marching band or rodeo. It's important that the parents of our kids and our community stakeholders know that this isn't the gym class that they endured when they were younger. A quality health and PE program delivered by fully trained teachers, supported by administration, and given appropriate professional development will reap dividends in the future. And I'd argue that our subject has the ability to develop the physical, the mental, the emotional side of students, perhaps more so than any other discipline. And to have our kids to value health and physical movement and to enjoy doing something about improving it, that's a tremendous opportunity and responsibility. We are stronger as a profession when we give our kids the skills and the support that they need as they go on their physical and health literacy journey.
Now is a great time to be a health and physical education teacher, but it's an especially great time to be one in the state of California. Yes, temperatures typically hover around 70 degrees, even though it's only about 60 here in San Diego. And sunshine is usually more than plentiful. But it would be wrong of us to not show some California love. And I'm not talking Dr. Dre and Tupac. I'm a rapper, by the way. You see, you lead our profession in many ways. For example, in 2017, California became the first state to require affirmative consent and sexual violence prevention be taught in any high school that has health as a graduation requirement. In 2014, Berkeley became the first city to pass a soda tax on sugary drinks. And since, many other cities across this country have followed, like New York and Philadelphia, for example. You were the first state to pass a smoking ban in public places. And since, many other states across this country have followed. Recently, you were the first state to adopt an LGBTQ curriculum be taught in public schools. California, you are leading us into the 21st century, and people are going to follow. Let's not forget what a strong organization CAHPERD is. You provide your members with various professional development opportunities, such as district workshops, a national adapted PE conference, dance conferences. Funding is available to attend conferences and speak out days. You have newsletters and more. Let's not forget about advocacy resources are at your fingertips. You have a state advocate representative in Kathy Lynch, legislative committees, an ESSA task force, grants for Jump Rope for Heart, and get this, even a discount on cool name brand sunglasses through the Rudy Project. Just check out page 17 in your program. Membership is also on the rise. From a low of nearly 900 members to now over 1,500 members today. Yes, give yourself a round of applause. You being here today makes this organization and our profession stronger. You make us stronger. Okay? There are people in this audience right now, not only leading this state, but having an impact on a national and even global level. If you want to be a part of this leadership, this movement to making our profession stronger, reach out to people on your CAHPERD board of directors, people like Brent Powell, and find small ways that you can get involved to initiate change.
I'd argue that now is a great time to be in our profession due to the ease in which we can now use instructional technology. Again, when I first started teaching in 1994, using technology in phys ed was using a 1 megapixel camera to take a picture and then printing it out, laminating it, and saying, hey, I made a worksheet. Now I'd argue with the devices that many of you have in your hands right now or in your pockets, we can take kids and put them in the center of the learning experience and give them significantly more responsibility. With appropriate use, technology allows us to take our kids through the 4 realms of Bloom's taxonomy, from understanding to application to analyzing, evaluating, and creation. Consider the power of digital portfolios. Essentially, we can track a student from K right through 12. We could film a kindergarten student, sit down with them as they make their first successful overhand throw. And then over time, we can record their progress as they throw for accuracy, for distance, with force, and as they get older, a range of different implements in different dynamic settings, and as the kids get older again, they can film themselves throwing in different sports, sit down and analyze their throwing ability, and come up with ways in which to improve that, maybe with their non-dominant hand. Essentially, using technology, we can track a kid from their first successful overhand throw to their first successful run out at first base for the Cubs to win the World Series. A couple of Cubs fans here.
Want to see that again?
There you go, that's a GIF. If you want to know how to make GIFs, travel back 24 hours and sit in on Stephanie Sandino's session. I'd argue that now, not only using technology to record and showcase our students and track their progress, not only does it allow us to show evidence of their learning, but it also allows us to highlight how effective we are as teachers. At a time when we're increasingly being asked to show our role in student growth, we can now point to the evidence that we've managed to archive in front of us. We can now say, when our kids move on to other teachers, I've done my part, now you do yours. Refers to his notes. One benefit of technology that I love is the ability to give my students a wider audience. When I was younger, assessment looked a little bit like this. Teacher gives me assessment, I fill it out, I give it back to teacher. Teacher grades it, gives it back to me, and it goes in the garbage. If it was really good, if it was an A, my mum might put it on the fridge and maybe 2 or 3 sets of eyes saw it. And that's not right. When our students perform great work, it's only fair that we then, again using technology, share that work with students, with their peers, with their friends, their family, with teachers, with administration. And we say, look at the great work that our kids are doing. And with our kids' permission, with our students' permission, we should be able to share that on social media. Imagine the great sense of pride a student has when they see their work bounce around in cyberspace with a life of its own. Refers to notes one more time. There's a great quote, and I have this as my screensaver on my laptop, from Ruston Hurley, and it says, if students are sharing their work with the world, they want it to be good. If they're just sharing with you, they want it to be good enough. I've had a student in health turn in a great piece of work, an A grade for sure, and I've said, this is so amazing. I want to share this with my people on social media. At which point the kids will say, oh, in that case, give it back to me. I want to make it better. I mean, how often do you have a student who's already got an A grade, the best grade possible, say to you, can I have that back? I want to improve upon it. So tech allows us to give our students that wider audience. Plus, when you start to share that work with other students, it starts to motivate the kids and it raises standards. If I take the best piece of work from semester 1 and I share that with semester 2, if all they've seen is the best that's come before them, that becomes the baseline as those students strive to better their peers. Well, now I've got kids motivating kids and kids essentially teaching kids. I get to step and be the guide on the side and just kind of facilitate that learning experience. I love making podcasts. You may have seen my session yesterday. With the device that you've got in your hand right now, you could record students sharing their knowledge and their understanding. Add a Pharrell beat, add some Katy Perry, chop that up, and now you've got this great archived piece that, again, you can share and you can showcase and you can let everybody know all of the great work that we're doing in health and in PE and in dance. At a time when we're so interested in monitoring teacher quality and student growth, when we use technology appropriately to record and showcase and share great work, we become stronger as we provide evidence that shows that not only are we great teachers, but that we are providing an environment in which all students can succeed.
Now is a great time to be a health and physical education teacher because of the rise of neuroscience. Neuroscience research and discovery is moving faster than ever, and the facts we are discovering validates even more what we do. We have to be more than physical activity supervisors. There's no place for those in our profession who simply roll out the ball. In Illinois, we've added a neuroscience component to our state standards. It says students will be able to discuss, comprehend, analyze, and explain the correlation between level of fitness and academic achievement. So we, in a sense, are creating young advocates to see another reason to take physical education, to educate their parents that it's not just your mommy's and daddy's gym class anymore. We are stronger because of people like John Rady, John Medina, Mike Uzala, and Paul Zintarski. Collectively, their work and many others have educated us about some of the neuroscience. We want students, and parents for that matter, to know because of what we do in physical education, they can improve their behavior, such as mood, focus, and attention, improve their cognitive abilities, such as growing new brain cells, memory recall and retention, and the brain's ability to adapt and receive new information. Studies have shown that the physical well-being of students has a direct impact on their ability to achieve academically. Therefore, we need other colleagues, other departments, to know what we do and begin to advocate for us. So, what small things can you do in your classroom, your curriculum, your school, to have the neuroscience working in your students' favor? When you know the neuroscience, you can better advocate. What ways do you educate other teachers, administrators, and parents about the neuroscience? If you're wondering what you can do to learn more, check out Jorge Rodriguez's Spark webinar called Design to Move. Is Jorge here right now?
There he is.
Right there. Fantastic webinar on understanding how neuroscience and physical education can be linked. Or make sure you read the book Spark by John Rainey. Or check out the book Brain Rules by John Medina. Or watch Mike Uchala's TED Talk on incorporating movement into your teaching spaces. Health teachers, I challenge you to think about how you use your traditional classroom spaces with desks to get students moving more in their learning. This book, The Kinesthetic Classroom, is meant for you and many other content areas. Don't forget about Paul Zintarski's TED Talk on Learning Readiness PE and the value it brings to quality physical education. If people around you are resistant to 21st century quality physical education and the additional benefits it brings, know the neuroscience has your back. We are stronger when we educate ourselves and others about the neuroscience and the value it has for our students and their learning.
I'd argue that now is a great time to be in our profession due to the rise of free professional development. I'm going to give a shout out to, is it Eva or Ava? Who did I speak to? Hey darling. We were having a conversation about free professional development just earlier today. There was a time when I knew I was the, free professional development. I know that it's expensive to come to professional development. And the more that Andy and I travel, the more stories that we hear. We know that not every teacher gets to go to the conferences that they need to go to, they deserve to go to, due to a lack of support from administration, lack of funding, and a lack of time. I work with a great class. There's one class I have in health class back home at Nutria High School, and they're all about applause. They like to give snaps when they hear something that resonates with them. So help me out here. I told them I was going to do this. Give me some snaps, give me some applause. If when you went to your administration and said, I want to come to CAHPERD, I want to do the whole session, all of the sessions, give me some snaps if they said, oh yeah, go without blessing, and they didn't balk at the time or the money. Give me those snaps. You obviously have some great bosses then. Give me some applause if when you had that conversation, they kind of shirked at giving you some of the money or all of the time, or perhaps you had to leave co-workers behind because it wasn't their turn to come to conference. Give me snaps. You know what, if I'd have done that in Illinois, it would have been the other way around. Obviously, California really values professional development. That's amazing. There's free professional development at our fingertips. Consider TED Talks. I love TED Talks. Not only can you watch them as webinars, but you can listen to them as podcasts. So many great speakers out there allowing us to listen to and check out and become greater educators. Plus, they have this great recipe. They seek to hit you here before they hit you here. If we as educators follow that recipe and we get emotional buy-in from our students before we present them with something novel, and we teach it give them something memorable and then teach it in a novel way, I guarantee our kids are going to buy in and become better learners. Webinars from the great people such as Spark, who are here today, and Shape America exist. They've been archived over time. You can access experts without paying money to go and visit them. They can now come to you in your own time without spending a dime. If you want to personalize your professional development and perhaps collaborate with another teacher, why not take on a mentor or a mentee? Shape America have their Mentor Match program. Whether you see yourself as a mentee or a mentor, or both, Shape America will match you up with somebody who's looking for the same things that you are, and together you can develop without any cost. YouTube is outstanding, obviously. I've already had a chance to watch Dr. Dean Creelar's and Joey Fife's CAHPERD keynotes from last year, and there are keynotes from presenters around the world sitting there, so if you can't go to the conference, you can still sit in and gain from that expertise. There are Pinterest boards. There are blog sites written by teachers for teachers, sharing all the things that work in their learning environment, and they're sharing it with other teachers. The podcast recorded by Health and PE teachers for Health and PE teachers. Again, Jorge's here with his Global PE Voxcast. There's no excuse now. There's so many opportunities, and technology makes it so much easier. Last year, Andy and I presented at the Phys Ed Summit, a 24-hour global professional development opportunity organized by the good people from Phys Ed Agogi, a team of teachers who got together because they wanted to provide free quality professional development for teachers around the world. We presented together. I was in my kitchen, he was in his kitchen, and we were joined by teachers across the globe. I would argue that now is the best time to become a stronger teacher due to the wealth of free professional development opportunities that exist.
Now is a great time to be a health and physical education teacher because of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, which was passed by U.S. Congress in December of 2015. This was a major victory for our profession and the 50 million students across this country. If you don't know, ESSA aims to shift the focus to a well-rounded education for students, which should include health and PE. It should, right? It should. Okay, therefore, we are now seen as important as other core subjects, like math and reading, etc. We're just as important, okay? Subjects that are part of a well-rounded education, like health and PE, are eligible for federal funding, which should be available starting next school year. Your state has developed an ESSA task force working to inform you about how your school district can gain access to this funding. Simply knowing about ESSA or hoping the money falls into your lap is not enough. Understand that other content areas are just as equally eligible for this same pot of money. In September, you can't see this, but I'll highlight it. In September of 2016, district leaders were asked how they would likely use the funds and spend the money from the Student Achievement and Academic Enrichment Grant, which is a part of ESSA. And down there near the tiny, tiny bottom falls PE. We're at 14%. People aren't thinking about us, even though we're supposed to be equal. This is like losing on the scoreboard, people. But I know we're PE people, we're health people, we're dance people, and we're competitive by nature. And I know we're going to work harder to get this money starting to work in our curriculum for our students. Advocacy and support of health and physical education is vital to the future of our profession and the millions of school-aged children across this country. It's vital. We urge you not only take the small steps to learn more about ESSA, but even more, advocate about why we're important and the value we bring to a well-rounded education for students. You're a great teacher. You know what your students need, and the money is out there. You need to start to advocate for your curriculum your school, your students. Talk to administrators. Invite them in your classroom. Go to board meetings. Attend speak out days, like Joint Shape America on April 25th and 26th in Washington, D.C. Heck, watch a Shape America webinar on ESSA. There's a lot you can do. We are stronger when we include other key stakeholders like parents, community members, and community providers. Let's look at the whole school, whole child model and see how we all fit into this. ESSA has opened the door for us to have a seat at the table. Okay? If you're wondering where you can learn more, start here. As Terry mentioned earlier, Shape America has put together user-friendly resources for you to learn how to become a better advocate. ESSA has popped open this door for us to have a seat at the table. But how full will our plate be? We need to be the ones right now to create some noise. Heck, we're comfortable with noise in our teaching spaces. We need to be the ones right now to create some noise and let others know that we have an essential role in helping every student succeed. California, now is the time to speak out, speak up, come along now, let's be stronger.
I'd argue that now is a great time to be in our profession due to the global collaboration. There was a time when I knew that I was the best health teacher in my school because I was the only health teacher in my school. And there I was, fresh off the boat from England. No one knew me, no one would speak to me, and damn, I didn't even know what half of y'all were saying. So I jumped onto social media. That was for you. I jumped onto social media and everything changed. Twitter allowed me to collaborate with like-minded individuals from across the world. I was able to bounce my ideas off of other people. I could work on developing those resources. It made me a better teacher, and it therefore made my kids have a better experience. Not only was I developing great teaching resources, but I was also developing friendships. And it's now no longer possible for me to come to a conference such as this without meeting teachers for the first time, no longer with that awkward fist bump or the firm British handshake, but with a hug that I would typically reserve for people that I've known for such a long period of time. Think of social media as a professional development opportunity that never sleeps. 24/7, I can always find somebody to like my tweets, to like my posts on Facebook, or to engage in an in-depth conversation on the Voxer app on Voxcast. Social media has allowed the world to just become a little bit smaller, and our health and PE dance community to become a little bit cozier. And consider CAHPERD itself. Last year you had 2 Canadians delivering the keynotes. This year you've got myself and fellow Brit, Joe Bailey. And we've even got 3 outstanding educators who have travelled here from Australia. Queen Elizabeth would be very proud of your welcoming of her Commonwealth Subjects. At a time when it can be difficult if you don't look like the majority, you don't sound like the majority, speak the same language as the majority, you don't live life like the majority, we have the ability through our subject to fight injustice, to overcome stereotypes, and to make sure that all students feel included by the lessons that we plan, the language that we use, and the language that we permit. I just want to share here, this is a poster that my school has in all of our teaching spaces. And it just reminds students that irrespective of who they are, where they come from, what their beliefs are, they have a right to be with me in my class, and they have a right to be accepted and to be appreciated. Being a connected educator has encouraged me to consider how am I better allowing my students to become global citizens. It's also encouraged me to analyze my curriculum. Why is it that my PE curriculum is so dominated by North American and European teen games? What is it that I'm hoping students to achieve in their time with me in PE? If I want to look at offense and defensive principles, we want to look at spreading the floor on offense, restricting the space on defense, and I choose to do that through ultimate frisbee, well, I can do exactly the same where I can take a Maori game from New Zealand. I saw Seth Martin present at Shape Minneapolis, and he introduced me to Kiarahi and Tapuai, two great games, great team games, that are specific to an indigenous culture in New Zealand. And yet I can still teach those same skills, those same principles that I am teaching through Ultimate Frisbee, but I can weave in social elements as well. And technology has allowed this to become such an easy thing to do. I can now get my health students to interact with their peers from across the globe. Over the last couple of years, I've run a podcast project where I've encouraged students from around the world to just share their experiences. What's life like as a teenager in your part of the world? What are your health concerns? What aspirations do you have for the future living in your country? And I've had voices from teenagers from Australia to Argentina, from Vietnam, those kids were recording in their second language, Great Britain, Australia, US, and Saudi Arabia. Where my well-resourced, privileged kids hear a female peer from Saudi Arabia say that she can't drive because she's not allowed to because of her gender, so she needs a male chaperone. And she needs that male chaperone if she wants to go to a gym. She has to go to a female-only gym. And when she arrives, the people who work there are more concerned about, is she covered up, and is she behaving appropriately, than how she's actually working out. Or when my kids hear that, that's when jaws hit the floor and questions start to be asked. If one role of education is to provide our kids to become global citizens and to contribute actively to that global community, then I would argue that we as teachers become stronger when we see our curriculum through a global lens.
We remain strong just from the work we do. I don't know why the S got cut off there, but it's there. The rise in wearable technology has shown there's a real interest in people tracking their steps, tracking their miles, or getting X number of minutes in the zone. Yet when I wear my Fitbit, I get nearly 4 to 6 miles a day just doing my job. We get steps and miles that people would die for. People pay gym memberships and hire fitness trainers to get the level of physical activity we do. Andy and I were at the Wisconsin Health and PE State Conference last fall, and we ran into the man who was running the whole thing. And he happened to be wearing a Fitbit, and he told us that he had clocked over 30,000 steps in one day. And later we found out that his battery had actually died on his Fitbit because he'd been working so hard to keep the conference going. So while you are here at CAHPERD, make sure you acknowledge those who are working hard behind the scenes to make this conference a success. The board members and countless volunteers. Let's give it up for them right now. Yes, our jobs make us physically stronger, but more importantly, I'm confident that this conference will make us stronger as individual teachers and as a whole profession. Perhaps Andy and I are like that fitness trainer who has given you a different way of viewing your day-to-day routine, or perhaps we have motivated you to try a new idea or do your job just a little bit differently. But we would not have done our jobs as fitness trainers if we did not give you the FIT principle to guide your future work. You guys know this one, the F. What does that stand for? Frequency. How often do you grow professionally? Think about new ideas in your teaching. Or consider the impact that you have on students and other teachers in your building. The I, what's that one? Intensity. How hard do you approach your teaching and lesson planning? Think of new ideas to improve the future experiences for your students. But also approach having balance, knowing when to back off. Because going too hard all the time will only lead down the road to burnout. So make sure you work hard, but also work smart. The first T, time. How long do you, or how much time do you spend in and outside of school thinking, preparing, and just thinking about teaching? How do you spend your time between bell to bell with your students? In a time where we're fighting for more minutes for physical education, health education, we need to make sure that we are planning pedagogically sound lessons for our students and that we are utilizing every minute appropriately. And lastly, the last T, type. What kinds of things are you doing to become a better teacher? Where in your teaching do you want to become stronger? How will you know? Will you seek feedback from students, other teachers, administrators? These fit principles mean nothing unless we commit to action. Like any successful fitness plan, you must determine where you are today, set goals for where you want to be, and then come up with the action steps on how you're going to get there. And then consistently refine this process through self-reflection and feedback. We are all co-authors and co-creators into making our profession what we want it to be. It's not just our work, it's yours. We all have to contribute. Sometimes a nudge, a tiny change to the way you think or behave can lead to big changes. Many of you probably know this company. Raise your hand if you know this company. IBM. The computer and technology juggernaut, especially during the 80s and 90s for sure. But what many of you probably do not know is a story behind why they were so successful. You see, they had this less is more motto. And they had a sales quota for their employees. And instead of shooting for these astronomical goals that seemed almost out of reach, they realized that if they did that, this would probably unmotivate their staff. And what they did is they set short-term, more realistic goals for their sales force to feel success, to be motivated. You can never underestimate the power of momentum. You can apply this in your teaching, you can apply this in your advocacy work, your relationships, heck, your day-to-day life. But when we celebrate small wins, it leads to momentum. And when we have momentum working on our side, it leads to change. And when we have change, our profession as health and physical education teachers becomes stronger. Thank you. We got one more little thing here.
It wouldn't be an Andy presentation without there being a scholarly rap. So, how many of you have seen Andy's scholarly raps? All right, yeah. There's like 10 million hits on YouTube now. So, he writes these raps, and I'm so envious of his talent, and I want to get involved somehow. And he never kind of lets me get involved. So this time around, I said, look, can I provide the music, please, Andy? I see myself as a bit of a wannabe DJ. I'm DJ Milnshine. So I put together some typically California tracks that I thought would be appropriate for Andy to rap to. So he's going to pull it up right now, and I'll show you an example of the things that I wanted him to consider. So we're just going to get that up right now.
Sound check.
Let's take a journey.
So to start with, I went old school soul. I love my name Shaw. Great California vibe.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we want.
He said no. So I went, I'm an old hip hop fan. So I went LL Cool J, going back to Cali.
I don't think so. I'm going back to Cali.
And again, he said no.
Cali.
So you gotta do something.
Cali. I don't think so.
Classic.
Cali.
jaw on the floor. Are you that sure? Did anybody roll at the ball anymore? Time to teach with greatness. Teach the standards, not with laziness. Those who now have forsaken us. Everyday great statement, date this. Homeschool, whole child, educate kids. Marinate on that, integrate this. Do what's best for kids, can't debate this. Physical and health literacy a necessity. Await this, come on, help create this. Quality, health, and PE can only make us stronger. I need you to listen up now, cause we can't wait much longer. I know we got to be right now. Speak out, speak up, come along, young. We gotta fight for what's right now. Shape up 50 million stronger. I don't know if you got a plan or not, if you understand or not. Act now, do all you can or not. Step up, every little bit adds a lot. But why does my child need help in PE? He's a healthy, fit, elite athlete. Well, let's see, we help build self-esteem, providing school physical activity. Ignite the brain, keep from falling asleep. Teach teamwork, work cooperatively. Teach skills to achieve health literacy, like communication, goal setting, and advocacy. Manage stress, help reduce anxiety. Build competence, physical literacy. Improve decision making, improve resiliency. Stand up if you're with me. Quality, health, and PE can only make us stronger. I need you to listen up now, cause we can't wait much longer. I know we got to be right now. Speak out, speak up, come along up. We gotta fight for what's right now. Shape up 50 million stronger. Here's what we need to be stronger. Just do your part and come along. Failure to act would be wrong. Together we are much stronger.
Thank you.